What a lovely crisp morning. I thought we could have an honest conversation today about camping gear. Things like how much or how little it's actually changed over the last 10 years, as well as the big problem that we've created with sponsored gear reviews, as well as talk about how I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently with regards to camping gear anyway on this channel. So this is the first stove or burner that I bought for my little adventures. The Trangia 27. Oh, it's got meths in it. And the first YouTube video I ever made, it featured a stove as well. That was the ember-lit wood stove. Have a guess what was part of the second video? Yeah, you guessed it, another stove. That was the Storming Norman as part of my first ever camping video. I'd seen the stove on YouTube on Graham's video, Black 73 Cat I think it's called, and I thought, what a fantastic bit of kit. So I bought one, tried it out, and then showed it you guys as well. And I still use it to this day, but it is a little bit battered and bruised and frail, so I only bring that out on special occasions now. But we're going to be using my first ever stove to make a brew anyway. Did I mention my third video? That was a different stove as well, so I should have seen the signs then that I had a bit of a problem when it comes to gear. Stoves is my thing. I just love playing with fire. So YouTube had been my go-to place for finding out about everything I needed to know for starting bushcraft and wild camping, whether that be gear related or finding out places to go, how to set bits of gear up, all of that kind of thing. It is a superb place for gaining ideas and knowledge. And when I started making my own videos, that is why I did it. It was purely just to share my experiences and just to share a little bit of knowledge. It was a big thank you really to all the people that had been before me and shown me how to do certain things, like how to open a water bottle, because I'm wearing gloves. It's too cold today. That's better. And I started showing people some of the products that I'd been using. So these are things that I had bought myself, tried out, things like the Snug Pack, Stratosphere Bivvy, the Alp Kit, Rig 3.5 tarp. These are all bits of gear that I loved, and I just wanted to share with you guys how they perform for me, how to set them up, all of that kind of thing. And I got loads of good feedback in the comments saying how much the video had helped people. It got a little bit addictive making that kind of video. I think I'm getting ready for a new windshield. But also, I was trying loads of new things when it came to camping, and I wanted to, have that perfect setup to dial everything in. And I started to realise, obviously, that there isn't such a thing as a perfect setup. There's different kits suit different situations, but I was buying more and more kit just to see if one thing worked better than another. So in search of the holy grail, shall we say. Stuff that I didn't really need, but I wanted. I already had good kit that worked, but it can always be lighter, it can always boil water faster, it can always have more room inside. So you just end up going down a rabbit hole. So I was putting out a mix of little adventures and gear reviews on YouTube, and the reviews I tried to make as detailed as possible. They were, in my opinion, very objective, very honest. I would highlight the pros and the cons of these products, and I was starting to get a little bit of traction and noticed. I was getting emails from companies saying, will you review this product or will you review that product? And most of the time I'd say, no thank you, that's not for me. I didn't see how some of these products would, you know, enhance my camping experience, or there wasn't anything interesting enough about them, if you know what I mean. And then I did my first one that somebody sent me something. So it was a sleeping pad, which was pretty comfortable, very easy to blow up, very lightweight. Didn't have any insulation in it though, so it wasn't very warm. But I told people as it was. You know, I tried to be as objective as possible, because I don't want to see anybody ripped off at the end of the day. But then, you know, as the channel grew and the channel grew, I'd get sent more and more bits of gear. Some of it I would show, some of it I wouldn't show. You know, there's been times when I've said to a company, I don't want to make a video about this product at all. It is absolutely terrible. And it would just be a bashing. I don't even know why you've sent it me. And most of the time they just say keep the product. So I'd either give it away or put it on eBay, something like that. And I'll be honest, it does give you a buzz when, you know, you get those first few emails saying, we really love your work, would you like to try our product? We'll send you one out, blah blah blah. And yeah, it's quite flattering. You feel quite proud, especially when some of the big brands start to take notice. So Hilleberg, they asked if they could use one of my photos for their brochure, for their annual catalogue, the Hilleberg Acto. And yeah, I was chuffed to bits. But you know, I didn't get anything in return for that. You know, Hilleberg have never sent me anything. All they've done is use a few of my photographs. Oh yes, I am ready for this. So I'm now 8 years into my little YouTube adventure, and I've been lucky enough to work with some of the biggest outdoor brands such as Thermarest, MSR, Terra Nova, Osprey, Rab. It's quite a long list. So none of these brands have ever paid me a single penny for any of the content that I've made. They've not had any influence on any of the videos. All they've done is said, here is some free gear. Do with it as you wish, without any sort of obligation. And that has always been my mantra, is that I make what I want to make. Now there's two things I need to mention. First, Terra Nova, I do have an affiliate program with them, so I just put a link in my description where you get a percentage off and then I get a percentage of the sale. But you know, they've not paid me for anything, even when I've been to shows and on their stand, and they've offered to pay me, but I haven't taken payment for it because it just doesn't sit right with me. You know, I'm doing this for the love of the outdoors, and obviously I want to make a living out of it, but not to the extreme where any brand owns me, because I love trying lots of different things. So over the last few years, I get, I'm not exaggerating, dozens of offers every single week, email after email, and you know, 99% of them I say no to. There's got to be something that stands out, whether it's really good on price point, really innovative with its design, or it will enhance my camping experience or your camping experience. But there's a couple of companies that just send me stuff. You know, they don't tell me it's coming, there's just a parcel arrives at the post. So one of those is Flextail, for example. So they sent me the original pump, Flextail sleeping pad inflator, and it was pretty good. I didn't like the way that the connector came on because it just kept falling off, but they rectified that when they sent out the X2 version, and the X2 version was pretty much perfect for what it did. It had a lantern on it and it pumped up your sleeping bag quite a lot of times. But then they've sent out the X3 version, and is it X3 or is the Max 3 or whatever it is? I don't even know what these are called. But I don't feel that it's adding anything to the party. I've not made a video on it. It's appeared in the background in some of my videos, but I actually prefer the one before. So I'm gone back to the X2 version. So yeah, it seems like sometimes companies are just reinventing new gear just for the sake of putting something new out to try and market it so you buy it. But they're using guys like me, and there's lots of other guys in the UK, I'm sure you know who the channels are, to promote stuff. So there's been a few companies lately. So Nortent is another one. So the Vern 1 came out last year with a little bit of controversy. So and I'd been talking to Nortent since it very first appeared in one of their Instagram things. It was quite a few months before, and I was excited to be the first person to test it out. Well, that's what I thought. It turns out that I didn't actually release a video on the day that it was launched, but there was 2-3 other videos all out on the same day, all making the same content, all saying how good this Vern 1 was, and that it was going to be a killer for the Hilleberg Solo. But a couple of weeks down the line, it turns out that it wasn't the case. A few of these tents had been destroyed and damaged in windy conditions. So the gear review industry is not actually what it used to be. It used to be about, like my early videos were of products that I'd used for a while, that I'd paid money for myself. So do you know when you've got skin in the game, as they say, you've actually invested some of your own hard-earned cash into something, you're going to look at things slightly differently. So let's just say you go to the pub and they've got there's some free sandwiches on the bar, and they've only got jam and paste or whatever it is, but you have a couple and you think, well, they're all right, they were free, they didn't cost anything, and you're not uber critical about them. But if you go to the same pub the following week and you spend £40 on a fillet steak and ask for it medium rare, and it comes back cremated, then you're not going to be happy. You're going to be more critical of something if you're putting your own money into it. So it's if you get something for nothing, like a new stove or a new tent, you're going to say, wow, this is great. You're not always looking for the negatives, and I don't think for 1 minute that these reviewers, because I'm one of them, that we're trying to cover up for any shortcomings in the product, because we're not. We're just really excited people, gear nerds. It should be on gear that you've really put through its paces over a long period of time. Gear that's got scuffs and war wounds. So these companies are sending loads of products out to loads of different reviewers, and then YouTube and Facebook and all those kind of things are getting flooded with, check out the new tent or check out the new stove, and it's all being provided free of charge. Although your intentions are to be 100% objective, you don't always have time to thoroughly test everything. And that's not just for camping gear, it's cameras and bikes, all that kind of stuff. The new product comes out and you want to be the first person to get the video out. And so you haven't got 6 months necessarily to put it through its paces. You can take it out in a stormy condition and see if it survives the night, but that just tells one story. It doesn't tell 6 months worth of story. So you do have to be wary of these things. So Nortent again, so they sent me out a sleeping bag which came the other day, and I've not been out and camped in it yet, and it looks a really well made sleeping bag. But I've got sleeping bags that, my Outkit Sky High is 8 years old and it's still perfectly fine. I've had all of these iterations of gear, but the original good stuff that I bought myself after doing my own research, still stands the test of time now. So the Nortent one, it's got little holes in the bottom so you can like walk about camp in it and jump about. You look like a, you know, an inflatable hot dog or something like that. And but who does that? You know, your sleeping bag's for getting in your tent and getting nice and warm, ready for bed. You know, for hanging around camp, you've got a puffy jacket or something like that. It's just, I feel that they're adding gimmicks to stuff. Serotonin, they asked me if I would have a look at their little table that they were going to put out on Kickstarter. And I went and had a look and I thought, that's great. A little table that fits in your pocket, it just flicks up. You know, you've got no excuse for not taking a table if you've got that. But then when it came, you know, it's a $25 table, something like that. There was a little Ludo game in it and a notebook and pen, and they sent me an email saying, will you please mention this and will you please mention that? And I thought, no. It's one of them, yeah, I've seen on other people's videos, these are respectable camping channels, and they're showing a little Ludo game or whatever it's called, you know, playing in the tent by themselves. We just don't do that. It's I'm sorry, I'm not naming names or anything, but I feel like we get sent something and we feel like we've got to show it, and for me it has to stop. So when it comes to outdoor YouTubers getting free gear and reviewing it, I'm not saying for 1 minute that they are untrustworthy and that you shouldn't trust those reviews. But what I am saying is that when a manufacturer sends out a tent to people like me, it hasn't cost us anything. So it's very difficult sometimes to quantify the value for money side of it, because we've not spent our money on it, if that makes sense. So it's very often overlooked that is it really good value for money. We're also usually on a pretty tight schedule to be one of the first people to get the video out, because after all, anyone that's putting their YouTube videos out there, they want people to watch it. So if you get in first, you tend to get more views, and whatever anybody says, you know, that is the reason that they're doing it. Even this little conversation we're having now, you know, if nobody watches it, I don't get paid, and I can't afford Nescafe for the next video. And lots of the reviews, or previews as I tend to call them, you know, they are hastily put together. You know, very often you see a tent pitched in somebody's garden or in a park, not actually in a real life situation. So that has two advantages. It normally means that we can get a video out on the day that the product arrives, and then it gives us the opportunity for a follow-up video, you know, a testing to destruction kind of video. Let's go in high winds or in really wet conditions, just to see what the tent or whatever it is really capable of. But what these previews are really good for are to give you a close-up look, you know, so you can make a judgment yourself. You know, people will often, you know, get close up and show you what the materials are like, or they will do a little bit of strength testing or something like that, or get timers out, get the scales out just to see how much something really weighs. You can get a feel for the space inside. Then, you know, they'll set up a sleeping pad inside the tent just to see if it's suitable for taller people. These are all great things, so you can actually see the product, you know, without having to just buy blind from the internet. But the real test for how good these products really are is, you know, go back a couple of months and have a look what gear we were using a couple of months ago. You know, the gear that we keep going back to and use over and over again tends to be the best gear. So if you see a tent pitched in someone's garden or taken out once and then you don't see it again, what does that tell you? It doesn't necessarily say that the product's rubbish, but what it does say is that we've got something else that we prefer. So yeah, you make of that as you will. One last word on the manufacturers themselves. It's really good advertising for them, isn't it? If you're a YouTuber with a following, they've got the perfect target audience. They're not spending money on an advert and just getting a 1% interest rate. It is one of those things, if you're following a camping channel, then the likelihood if you get to see a tent, you're going to watch it, you're going to be sort of invested in it. Sending out a free product to a popular YouTuber is really cheap advertising, especially when you're hitting the perfect demographic. Some manufacturers are definitely better than others. You know, some will say, would you like to try this product? No obligations, we'll just send it out to you. They're not expecting anything from you. And they're the ones that I like to work with. Whereas others, you know, they'll try and get more involved, try and manipulate what kind of content they want you to put out. Maybe suggest some ideas for content. Maybe saying, will you please make sure to mention this? And you know, they're putting words in your mouth then, and yeah, I avoid those at all costs. I do need to give a little bit of love out after a bit of hating on myself and fellow reviewers. I think they're very important just for showing products. You know, people want to see before they buy. It is a ball ache now just to, we tend to buy online a lot. If you buy from somewhere like China, for example, it's such a difficult job trying to get a return. So yeah, you just want to see whether something is going to be suitable for you before you buy it. So even if it is just to show the product, big thank you to everybody that makes those videos, so I can get to see things as well before I decide whether I want to buy it or not. So for me personally, on my channel, this is going to stop. There are two reasons for this, and I'll hold my hands up and say that I am part of the problem, because I make videos showing you the latest thing, the latest bit of gear, and it creates a sort of throwaway attitude when it comes to camping gear. Like, you've got to constantly be upgrading to the next bit of kit. You need to get rid of your alcohol stove and get one that's made of titanium, and then a month later they put a fan on it so it makes it boil quicker. All of these different things, it's just, there's nothing wrong with the original Trangia. And I get lots of comments with laughy faces from people saying that you've cost me more money, Messner, and I don't want that to be the case. I don't want people to be wasting their money. This is the star of the show, you know, not the mug, not the stove. These are things that make it, you know, a nice experience having a cuppa, but you don't need to keep changing your gear over and over again. So that's not to say that I'm not going to buy any more gear, but it is to say that, you know, I'm not going to be doing any more of these free gear things, because what I'm going to do is, if I like the look of something, I'm going to buy it with my own money. I'm going to put my skin in the game again, you know, like I did when I first started out making the videos. And I can do things in my own time. I can say the things that, you know, I want to say. I can wait until other people have, you know, put the videos out on day one, and then 2 weeks later find out what the problems are. You know, you need time to test stuff properly. So I've already started trimming down the gear, but I'm not going to be using a different tent every week. I'm not going to be using, you know, a different sleeping bag every week. I'm going to keep a couple for different sorts of situations, but you know, you don't need to be. I look back at some of the older videos, so I've got probably 6 years ago I bought a Hilleberg Solo. If I'd kept it, it'd still be going strong now. You know, it's still do everything that I wanted a tent to do. A little bit heavier than, you know, say my Durston X-Mid for something like the Cumbria Way, but that's a very different situation. Most of my stuff is just hiking up a hill or mountain and a one-night camp, and that tent does it very well every time. So why do I need to keep going and looking for something else? You know, I've got my Unna now, which ticks every box for me, almost every box, but it does 99% of what I want it to do. So why get another tent? Why? Just to it's purely just to make a video. That's being brutally honest. It's just to make a video, and you know, rather than try and ram something down your neck that you don't really need, I'd like to make a video that's got a bit more substance to it, that's maybe got a message in it or got some information. So all of the stuff that I've used, yeah, I've actually learned a hell of a lot. So I know what tent works better in certain situations. I know what sleeping bag is, you know, what the best weight to warmth ratio. I know what sleeping pads are most comfortable. I know which tent pegs work better in different ground situations. All of these different things, from trying so much different gear, I can answer those questions and maybe help you out, but I don't have to show you and try and... I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just thinking that you want to see it because I'm a gear nerd. You might be a gear nerd, but I don't want to give that impression that you need new gear all of the time, because you absolutely don't. So there will be the odd exception where, you know, I see something that is innovative, something that is different to what is out there at the moment, maybe a different technology, maybe a different, you know, type of material that is new to the market. When you look at the tent designs now, they're all the same, aren't they? You look at something like the MSR Hubba Hubba, and then the big Agnes, and then all of the Nature Hike ones, and 3F UL, they're all just like copying off each other. There are one or two companies that are trying to do the odd thing differently, but sometimes they're changing things just to be different. You know, it doesn't really add anything to the product as well, so, you know, I'm not going to be buying anything like that. It's got to add some sort of value, in my head anyway. So 2025 is going to be quite different. There's going to be quite a lot of variety. I'll be doing my camping stuff. I'll also be doing some bushcraft stuff, cooking stuff. Hopefully we'll get out more in the van in 2025. I'm going to be digging out all my old gear. Still works perfectly fine. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching, and don't go buying anything that you don't really need.